Good morning, 6th standard. Now we're on to the next extract, 11F. Just before that, uh, if you can see, sorry, uh, that here we're going to do extract 11F. But just before that, before we start on it, I'll tell you the answers to 10C, and I'm sure you've done it in your textbook. And you see, I am becomes I'm, right? And I have will become I've. And the next line, I would will become I'd. And the third line, we have will be we've, right? And the last line, they will be they'll. Okay. Okay, so now we go on to the next extract here, which is 11F. Okay, now as I told you, I think you remember that I told you that this was actually taken from a program called Confessions, and this program was hosted by a person called Simon Mayo. Okay, now that's a picture of Simon Mayo for you. He's still alive. He's more than 62 years old, and he's living in the United Kingdom. Okay, now he had this radio show between 1995 and 1998. Okay, and then after that he had it as a TV program too after 2008. Okay, so now we'll go on to our text, that's 11F. Okay, so you can open your textbook to page 146, and here we have another confession. Okay, so text 11F. Dear Simon, I have a dreadful confession to make. 7 years ago, age 13, I used to live in a cul-de-sac. Now, a cul-de-sac, it is it's usually a street that's closed at one end. So, you know that sort of you're living at the dead end of the street. Okay, my friends who lived in the street used to get up to various pranks. That means many mischievous acts and practical jokes that they were getting into, these boys. But nothing compared to what happened one hot summer's day. It hadn't rained for weeks, and we were sitting on a grass bank wondering what mischief we could get up to. So it's a usual thing. Children of a particular age, they're very naughty, isn't it? So, and they do things that they're not supposed to be doing, and they get into lots of trouble, right? Finally, one of the gang suggested that we light a fire. This was agreed, so we each went home to collect items to burn. I went to call on James, a friend of mine, but he wasn't allowed out by his mother because of an incident he had just caused at the supermarket. So there you see there's already another of his friends who is sitting at home. He's been punished because he was up to something naughty. Okay. So now we're on to the next page. We piled the old newspapers and litter together, poured on some oil and lit the fire. Before long, we had a nice blaze going. Now, a blaze is a real big fire that's burning with huge flames. Okay, that's a blaze. However, when we added more oil to it, it got out of control. We tried to put the fire out, but only succeeded in setting a nearby tree alight. So you can see what nonsense this is all leading to. As it erupted, that means it broke out suddenly, the flames. We realized that we were going to be in trouble and ran off. I found my mother and told her that there was a fire across the road. See, even then, he's not saying he was part of it, of lighting the fire. While she rang the emergency number, I looked out of the window and watched the flames envelop the end of a neighbor's garden. So you see what's happening. The fire is wrapping up, it's covering or surrounding the neighbor's garden. At this point, James, having been sent to his room in disgrace, in shame, looked out of his window and saw the fire. He shinned down the drain pipe, that means you slipped down the drain pipe, outside his bedroom window and rushed towards the fire with the blanket from his bed. He threw it over the blaze and jumped back as it too went up in flames. As he tried desperately to put out the fire, it reached the caravan parked in the neighbor's garden, and it was soon burning furiously too. A caravan is usually attached to the car, and you can use it for camping, and you go out in that. At this point, a fire engine and a police car arrived. The police officer grabbed James and pulled him towards the car, since he thought that James had started it. Unfortunately for James, a number of witnesses stated that they had seen him burning a blanket, which confirmed the police officer's suspicions. The fire brigade finally managed to put out the fire just before the neighbor's house caught fire. But his caravan was completely destroyed. Since James was only 10 at the time, he got away with a severe warning from the police and another punishment from his parents. So you saw the boy, most unfortunately, he's got into trouble for something he didn't do. To this day, James does not know how the fire started, but I now feel that time has come to confess. Yours sincerely, Dave. So you see, unfortunately, what's happened there, right? James hadn't done anything, but he's got into trouble for something that he hadn't done. Okay, so now we come to the exercises there. Use the following underlined words from text 11F in a sentence each to show you understand their meaning. So you can write the 5 sentences there and put it in the assignment box, right? I'll put in the assignment box for you. In pairs, discuss and write a 1-sentence explanation for why the word mischief is spelt with IE but neighbor is spelt with EI. That's because of the difference in the pronunciation. That's why. Okay. Next one. There are 10 irregular past tense verbs in the text. Find them all and give the present tense form of each one. Read the key point about irregular verbs to help you. Okay, so you know what past tense and irregular past tense is. I'll give you an example. Like, we just don't add the ed in the usual way when you form the past tense, but you have the past tense being formed by maybe adding en, or the word itself completely changes. Like eat is eaten, isn't it? Right? So in the eat the past tense is ate and the past participle is eaten, right? So in the same way, you have 10 irregular past tense verbs. They're asking you to find them. So you underline them, and we'll do it together. I'll give you the answers in our next class. Okay? Now, the key point. Irregular past simple verbs. Most of the verbs in English and in text 11F are regular, which means they form their past tense using ed. Example, allowed or talked, played. These are all the normal way we form the simple verbs, the past tense, that is. The preceding consonant will be double if the vowel is short. Example, grabbed. If the verb ends in a Y, which is pronounced as a syllable, try or carry, but not obey, then the Y changes to an I before the ED is added. An example, we have tried or carried. There is a group of verbs which have optional past tense forms because there exist older and newer versions. They can take either ed or t in the past tense. Examples of this kind are leap, spell, and burn, which have the past tense forms leaped or leapt, spelled or spelt, and burned or burnt. The T, that is the irregular version, is the more modern spelling or pronunciation. The most commonly used verbs in English are irregular, that is, have, come, and do. Some form their past simple tense by changing the vowel. Example, sing becomes sang, keep becomes kept. Others undergo even more of a change to form the past tense. Example, buy, bought, go, went. Okay, so you see how some verbs have irregular past tense and not the usual form. Okay, now we go on to the next page there. Another category of commonly used verbs do not change their form regardless of the tense. Example, read or put. It becomes read and put only. Cut remains as cut. Shut remains as shut also. Irregular verbs have to be learned so that you can recognize them in your reading and use them in your writing correctly spelled without having to think about them. This, I think, you all are quite clear about that and you all are good at those spellings. So, question 12. You're going to write your own confession to be broadcast on a radio program. Write a draft of your letter starting, Dear Simon. Use the tip below to help you. Use emotive language to make the reader or listener feel sympathy for you and inclined to forgive you. Check the paragraphing. Use of full stops, commas, and apostrophes in your letter. Okay, that question, I think you can do it. It will be quite interesting. You can think of something that you'd like to confess. It needn't be real, it can even be just part of your imagination. Doesn't have to be real. Okay, so today is Wednesday, right? So you can put it in for Friday for me. Okay, or okay, we'll make it Monday so that you have more time and you can think about it and then write it well. Okay, don't forget how to write the letter they're expecting you there, because you can see the format that they expect you to follow there. So if you go through back to 11E and 11F, you'll get an idea of that. Don't forget, you have to have paragraphs, right? The way you write is very important. Your presentation, the content, the way you present each paragraph has a particular topic to it, right? Okay, now we'll read the tip for activity 12A, confessing. Think of something you did and got away with in the past, which you now wish to own up for. If you can't think of a real thing, borrow an idea from a film or something which you know has happened to someone else. For instance, you broke a vase and blame the cat, or you may be up to up or you made up a false excuse for the teacher about why you hadn't revised for the exam. It is better if there is some drama and or irony involved. In text 11F, the irony is that the person who tried to put out the fire was the one who got the blame for starting it. Because it is an informal letter representing a spoken confession, it can use contractions of verb forms. Example, I'm or shouldn't. Okay, so there it's an informal letter, so you'll just have your address, the date, then the salutation, right? You'll have Dear Simon. They tell you specifically that you've got to use it like that. You've got to use that style, Dear Simon, and then you have paragraphs describing what happens. First, you have a little introductory paragraph, then the confession that you'd like to make, and what goes along with that, right? Okay, so I hope you've understood what you have to do there, all of you. So, good morning once again, and I hope all of you have a great day.